Hey there, welcome back. Great to see you again for Law number 11. Learn their currency, discover what people truly value, and trade in it. If you haven't watched the previous episodes yet, please check the description. Otherwise, you will miss some important steps in this book. Every human being carries within them a hidden economy, though few ever pause to recognize it. We often assume that money alone is the universal measure of value, but life reveals a more complex truth. One person will abandon wealth for the security of love, while another will sacrifice affection for the cold thrill of power. Some live for freedom, even at the cost of comfort, while others will gladly surrender freedom for the safety of belonging. This unspoken ledger, the secret account of what each soul prizes most, governs choices more reliably than reason or circumstance. History bends to this law. Empires have risen because rulers understood what their people needed most, and those same empires have collapsed when leaders misjudged those desires. Rome secured loyalty not through philosophy but through bread and spectacles, feeding both body and imagination. In feudal Japan, the samurai considered loyalty and honor more precious than gold, choosing death before disgrace. In our modern age, the brightest minds of Silicon Valley work for less pay than they might command elsewhere, because what they truly seek is ownership, freedom to create, and the thrill of shaping the future. To read what people prize is to glimpse the hidden architecture of influence. The principle is deceptively simple. If you know what a person values, you can move them. If you misread it, every attempt to persuade, inspire, or bond will fail. The mistake most people make is assuming that others see the world through the same scale of worth. They project their own desires outward, expecting them to be universal. But no such universal exists. Even love, so often hailed as the highest treasure, splinters into many forms. For some, it means loyalty, for others, admiration, for others still, sacrifice. To recognize these subtle differences and act upon them is to step into the intimate economy of another person's life, to speak in their unspoken language and strike at the core of their decision-making. To live blind to this reality is to wander through life as though in a marketplace where every trade is rigged against you. But to master it is to gain the ability to predict, to foresee not only the choices people will make, but the deeper reasons why they will make them. This is not mere persuasion, it is strategy. It is the difference between appealing to the surface and addressing the soul. Across history, the most powerful leaders and thinkers were not always those with the strongest armies or the most abundant treasuries, but those who could read the invisible values that governed people's hearts. Rome did not hold its empire together by sheer force alone. It understood that a restless populace could be calmed with bread and spectacles. The grain dole satisfied the hunger of the body, and the grand spectacles of the Colosseum satisfied the hunger of the imagination. These provisions were not trivial distractions. They were strategic acknowledgments of what Roman citizens considered essential. The Caesars who recognized this unspoken bargain thrived, while those who neglected it faced uprisings and collapse. In Japan, the samurai carried a code where honor outweighed life itself. Wealth and luxury mattered little in comparison to loyalty, reputation, and duty. This cultural economy meant that a warrior would sooner commit ritual death than live with shame. Outsiders often misunderstood this, mistaking it for cruelty or senselessness, yet it reveals the profound truth that values shift from culture to culture. What one society treats as expendable, another treats as sacred. The ability to discern this difference was and remains the mark of wisdom. Religions, too, have long taught that what people treasure defines them. The Buddha warned that misplaced attachment is the root of suffering, subtly teaching that we must examine what we give weight to. Jesus spoke of storing treasures in heaven rather than on earth, redirecting value from material possessions to the eternal. Stoic philosophers such as Marcus Aurelius insisted that true worth lies not in external trappings, but in the strength of one's character and the calm of one's mind. These teachings, though distinct in origin, converge on a single point. To live well, one must understand not only what one values personally, but also how values govern the choices of others. Cultural traditions across the world reinforce this truth in ways both subtle and profound. In Japan, the giving of gifts is not about the material worth of the object, but the symbolism of respect and relationship. In Middle Eastern societies, hospitality is sacred, and the honor of a household depends on the treatment of guests. In many African communities, kinship and collective identity matter more than individual possession. To fail to recognize these silent priorities is to risk offending, alienating, or losing trust entirely. But to honor them is to enter the deeper economy of belonging and respect. When leaders fail to read this hidden script, history punishes them without mercy. During the French Revolution, it was not abstract ideals that first drove people to the streets, but hunger. When Marie Antoinette allegedly responded to the cry for bread with "let them eat cake," she revealed a catastrophic misreading of what her people valued. To the starving, bread was life itself. Her ignorance symbolized the blindness of the monarchy, and within years, the guillotine had severed the crown. From Rome to Kyoto, from Jerusalem to Paris, one pattern repeats. Civilizations, rulers, and movements rise when they meet the deepest needs of their people, and they fall when they ignore them. What a society esteems most is the force that shapes its destiny. Those who can discern this force, whether in nations or in individuals, hold an advantage greater than wealth or arms. For to recognize what people prize is to hold the key not only to their loyalty, but also to the unfolding of history itself. If history teaches us that societies rise and fall according to what they prize, psychology reveals that the same truth governs individuals. Human beings are not nearly as rational as we like to believe. Beneath our decisions lie deep psychological drives formed by both biology and experience. To master the art of influence, one must first understand that every person carries an internal hierarchy of value. Some crave recognition, others safety, others love, others control. These unseen priorities determine behavior far more than words ever do. Modern psychology confirms this through frameworks like Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the base are physiological necessities, food, water, shelter, followed by safety, belonging, esteem, and ultimately self-actualization. Although the model has been debated, its essence holds. Humans are motivated not by abstract logic, but by layered needs that demand satisfaction. What appears as stubbornness or irrationality is often the protection of something that sits high on a person's value ladder. To try to negotiate or persuade without seeing this invisible structure is like trying to move pieces on a chessboard while blindfolded. Consider the psychology of recognition. Experiments in organizational behavior show that employees often value appreciation as highly as, if not more than, financial reward. A sincere acknowledgement of effort can ignite greater loyalty than a bonus. This is not sentimentality, but hard psychology. Recognition feeds the need for esteem. Conversely, to ignore or belittle someone's contributions is to strike at the core of their self-worth, often provoking resistance stronger than any rational argument could overcome. Another psychological truth is that people reveal their values through reactions, not declarations. Research on emotional triggers shows that anger, fear, and enthusiasm flare when something important is touched. The executive who bristles when his authority is questioned, the friend who grows defensive when loyalty is doubted, the lover who lights up at the smallest sign of affection, these moments betray what lies at the center of their personal world. Learning to read such cues is not manipulation, but awareness, the same awareness a strategist needs to anticipate moves before they happen. Social psychology also reveals that values are contagious. Emotional contagion, the process by which people unconsciously mimic the moods of those around them, means that what one person prizes can ripple across a group. A leader who elevates integrity creates a culture where honesty becomes prized. One who tolerates deceit cultivates suspicion. Thus, to understand what an individual values is also to glimpse the forces shaping entire communities. There is also a darker side. People can be blinded by what they prize. Cognitive biases like confirmation bias and the scarcity effect show that individuals will defend their chosen treasures, whether status, beliefs, or possessions, even against reason. A person convinced of their own narrative will ignore evidence that threatens it, because the narrative itself has become their treasure. Marketers exploit this by creating artificial scarcity, knowing that people equate rarity with value. Strategists exploit it by withholding attention or resources, letting the hunger for them grow until the other side reveals their hand. Perhaps the most profound psychological truth is that what people value is not fixed. It evolves with time and experience. A child treasures approval, an adolescent independence, an adult stability, an elder legacy. Trauma, success, betrayal, or love can reorder priorities overnight. Thus, mastery lies not only in identifying someone's present values, but in predicting how those values may shift. This is where deep awareness moves from reactive to proactive, from merely responding to actively shaping the unfolding of relationships. To navigate human behavior, then, is to become fluent in an unspoken language. The words on the surface may mislead, but beneath them runs a silent economy of needs, fears, and desires. Those who fail to recognize it will always be puzzled by human behavior, treating actions as random or irrational. Those who see it clearly will appear almost prophetic, anticipating choices before they are made. And in the arena of power, prophecy is indistinguishable from control. In the boardrooms of business, negotiations often collapse not because the numbers don't add up, but because one side fails to recognize what the other truly values. A supplier may appear to be chasing higher profit margins, yet their deepest currency might be consistency and respect. They may prefer a steady partnership with a reliable buyer who honors timelines and communicates transparently, rather than chasing the highest bidder each quarter. Those who understand this hidden script win deals not by offering more money, but by offering trust. The executive who knows how to read beneath the surface learns that loyalty can be purchased not with price, but with stability, predictability, and dignity. Many of the most enduring business empires have been built not on aggressive bargaining, but on recognizing these subtler currencies and honoring them. The same principle emerges in leadership. Managers often assume that their team is motivated primarily by salary or bonuses, but for many individuals, the true driver is recognition. A simple acknowledgement of effort, a word of appreciation in front of peers, or the genuine sense that one's contribution is seen and valued often inspires greater loyalty than a financial reward. History and modern organizations alike are littered with examples where leaders lost their best people not because of poor pay, but because they failed to see what their people actually valued. The wise leader becomes fluent in the hidden motivations of each team member, tailoring their approach, recognizing one worker's need for autonomy, another's hunger for growth, and another's desire for belonging. When a leader learns this, they stop managing tasks and start guiding human beings, unlocking performance and loyalty that money alone could never buy. Nowhere is this truth sharper than in love and relationships. Many imagine that attraction is based on beauty, status, or eloquence, yet long-term bonds are rarely sustained by such shallow traits. The reason one person chooses another for a lifetime is almost always because their currencies match on a deeper level. Safety, growth, belonging, or a sense of home. One partner may provide stability and calm, while the other provides adventure and energy, and the balance creates a whole greater than either part. Words and gestures may enchant in the early stages of romance, but the foundation of enduring love is built on these invisible currencies. That is why some couples thrive through decades of hardship, while others collapse despite having all the external advantages. When two people discover that their currencies, what they most value, align or complement each other, they form a bond that outlasts circumstances, temptations, and time. Friendship reveals this law in another form. Why do we sometimes call a close companion a brother from another mother? Why do some people willingly sacrifice their time, resources, and comfort for those who are not bound to them by blood? The answer lies in the hidden currencies of reliability, loyalty, and shared struggle. True friends prove themselves in moments of crisis, and it is in these crucibles that the currency of trust is tested and confirmed. When someone says, "I've got your back," and proves it when it matters most, they demonstrate that their loyalty is worth more than any material exchange. Such bonds are rare precisely because they are based on a currency that cannot be faked or bought. It must be demonstrated, earned, and reciprocated. The psychology of deep friendship shows us that while casual acquaintances may trade in small favors or shared entertainment, real friends trade in sacrifice, presence, and unwavering reliability. But there is also a darker side to this law, for those who understand hidden currencies can exploit them. Leaders of cults, master salesmen, and ruthless manipulators become fluent in discovering what their targets value most. Some exploit the lonely by offering belonging, others manipulate the insecure by showering them with validation, and still others prey on ambition by promising status and recognition. History offers chilling examples of figures who rose to power not by offering truth or fairness, but by identifying and feeding the deepest hungers of those around them. This does not make the law less true, it makes it more urgent to understand. For if you do not learn the currencies of others, you are vulnerable to those who already have. Knowledge of human values is both shield and sword. It protects you from exploitation, and it allows you to guide others with clarity and power. To turn understanding into power, one must move beyond observing others' values into deliberately mastering the art of trading in them. At its core, this law is not simply about perception, but about application, knowing why a currency matters to someone, how to identify it, and how to use it in ways that build loyalty, influence, and advantage. Strategy here is not a collection of manipulative tricks, but a discipline of listening, decoding, and positioning oneself to give what others value most without depleting one's own strength. The first tactic is learning to listen beyond words. People rarely state their true currencies outright. They may speak of wanting higher pay, but their tone and behavior reveal they crave recognition or stability or the removal of fear. This is why silence and patience become strategic weapons. By allowing others to speak freely, by watching their micro-reactions when certain topics arise, and by noting what lights them up or deflates them, you begin to map their inner economy. You are not looking for what they ask for, but for what they cannot help revealing. Why is this important? Because once you see the real hunger beneath the stated demand, you can give in a way that no competitor or rival can match. That is how you secure loyalty and influence that others mistake for luck. The second tactic is testing values through controlled exchanges. Just as a merchant tests the purity of gold by scratching it against stone, you can test the currencies of others through small, calculated offers. Praise a colleague privately and publicly. See which one they respond to more strongly. Offer choice between money and time. Watch which they prioritize. Give space to a partner or give attention. Observe what deepens the bond. These micro-tests are not manipulative games, but instruments of measurement. And once measured, the person in front of you becomes predictable in a way that most of the world will never notice. Why does this matter? Because predictability is the foundation of control. When you know what someone will choose in a moment of tension, you hold the advantage before the moment even arrives. The third tactic is accumulation rather than exhaustion. When trading in someone else's currency, do not spend recklessly. Invest. Giving someone what they value most should not be constant and unconditional, for then it loses its impact. A leader who praises too often makes praise meaningless. A lover who gives attention endlessly risks suffocating rather than strengthening the bond. The strategy is to hold back, to give in measured doses, timed with precision, so that each gift retains its power. Why is this crucial? Because scarcity magnifies value. When you control the rhythm of the exchange, you shape the perception of worth, ensuring that what you give is never taken for granted. The fourth tactic is alignment with your own reserves. A danger in mastering this law is to become a servant to others' currencies at the expense of your own. The true strategist knows that giving others what they value must not bankrupt their own energy or integrity. You may offer recognition freely because it costs you little, but you must guard against giving time, resources, or sacrifice that slowly erodes your own foundation. The art is in the overlap, finding ways where your surplus meets their hunger. Why is this necessary? Because sustainability is the long game. Influence that depletes you eventually collapses. Influence that aligns with your own nature endures for decades. The fifth tactic is to weaponize withholding. This is perhaps the most advanced application of the law. Once you have identified someone's currency, you can control the tempo of the relationship by selectively withholding it. This is not cruelty, it is strategy. A mentor who withholds approval pushes the student to greater effort. A negotiator who withholds agreement creates pressure on the other side to reveal concessions. A partner who withholds unnecessary validation forces the relationship to mature beyond constant reassurance. Why does this work? Because deprivation exposes dependency. When you control the flow of another's currency, you shape not only their behavior, but their sense of balance in the relationship. Used ethically, this builds resilience. Used ruthlessly, it creates dominance. Finally, the master strategist learns to layer currencies across contexts. In business, you may trade in trust and reliability. In personal life, in affection and loyalty. In leadership, in recognition and growth. The key is to remain a polyglot of values, fluent in multiple human currencies, switching with ease depending on the environment. Why is this mastery? Because while most people are trapped in their own value system, you become adaptable, like water flowing into any container. This flexibility not only gives you power in the present, but allows you to anticipate the future. When you know the true currencies people deal in, you can predict how they will act under pressure, how they will react to temptation, and how they will respond to loss. This is the highest ground of human strategy. Not just reacting to others, but foreseeing them. Application, then, is not a matter of clever words or manipulative gestures. It is the discipline of deep observation, controlled exchange, strategic withholding, sustainable giving, and adaptive fluency. To learn the currencies of others is to stand at the center of their hidden economy, able to guide, to protect, or to command. Those who ignore this law stumble blind through relationships, forever surprised by betrayal, resentment, or disloyalty. Those who master it become rare figures who move through the world not as victims of others' values, but as architects of influence, quietly shaping outcomes unseen but undeniable. All right, that's a wrap for part 11. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate your time and energy. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and keeps the content coming your way. And be sure to check out part 12, where we dive into, Until then, take care and keep growing. See you in the next one.